All right, hey everyone, Jake and Brian Fouch here. Now, I want to welcome Minesh Bindi, the wealth manager at Gold and Silver for Life. We're so excited to have you. So, welcome, Minesh.
Thank you guys so much for having me, and I'm very, very excited and proud of you guys for what you're doing with EVG, and it's a pleasure to be on.
Appreciate that. So, for anyone listening who's not familiar with Minesh, I want to give him his quick bio here. So, he started negotiating and selling real estate at 16 years old, which I love that because I love real estate, and I know Jake does as well. So, that's pretty cool for us. But Minesh, I know you did your first real estate deal for about 3 flats in the heart of London's financial district when you were just 18 years old. So that's an amazing accomplishment for someone who is just getting started. It seems like.
That was a couple years after I started negotiating deals. I thought, hey, I'm making so many people lots of money. I better get involved myself. And so that was 3 units in Canary Wharf. It was about £1 million worth of property, and we got a 250,000 of equity in that one deal and 68,000 pounds of cash back on the day of completion. And it all started with just a £500 investment to lock those deals up.
And that's incredible. And I know that after you did that, a friend of yours, you mentioned this, that he started helping you or told you that you should start helping people learn how to do what it is that you're doing because it came so naturally. So you created some education companies. And, I love that because that's why Jake and I are so passionate about Elevation Group, being able to help others and, promote that education because that's what's missing out there, it seems like. And I know that's kind of sort of one of your passions as well.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, so to correct the timeline slightly, we started doing seminars when I was 16. I was negotiating real estate for about 6 months and blowing it out of the water, out of the park, out of the water, whatever you want to say, simply because I just had no fear. When I was negotiating real estate with developers, the answer was either you're going to give me the deal I want or I'm going to go do my homework and go to school tomorrow. So there was no fear of walking away. I've now come to realize that that's what it was. Back then, it was like, all right, I don't know why you guys can't get these deals. And then since then, after 16, I started talking about how to negotiate real estate. Then I did my first deal. And then, then everything else ensued. But I must admit, my first desire was, I wish I was as educated and as spiritually awake to say I wanted to help people from day one, but I just wanted to make money. Right from day one up until after 2008, my goal was to make money, and my goal was to build businesses that made money. It was after that the sort of my aligned purpose sort of woke up.
That's very cool. Now, you mentioned that you've been doing a lot of presentations to high net worth individuals around the world. Been able to speak to a lot of companies, help investors using the strategies you've learned. So how many actually presentations have you actually done?
I have no idea. It's a lot. I have no idea. At one point I was speaking pretty much once a week, at least for years. To be honest, I have no idea. It might be. Did anyone send you anything bio-wise? It might be on there.
I think I read somewhere it was like over 550 presentations, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds a bit low right now. That we might have dropped it. But
That's
yeah,
incredible.
no, it's about that much. Yeah.
Well, very cool. Now, so I know that you had started some education companies around real estate, the stock market, but you've turned your attention now to gold and silver. So how did that attention transfer over to the gold and silver education and investing?
Well, at the end of 2008, once the financial crisis was in full swing, I sort of looked around and I realized we were teaching people how to trade. And trading is good for a certain type of person. It's not good for everyone. It requires a certain type of temperament. It requires a certain understanding of risk. And no matter how much you can do as an educator, when fear or greed strike, it's up to the person of whether they'll be able to actually manage that risk or not. And after 2008, I just, my passion turned to, I wonder whether we could teach people a safer way of investing. And most importantly, I wonder whether we could make safe investing exciting. Because the trend that I saw was that no matter what I said or spoke about, people were very attracted to exciting investments. And to get that excitement, they would literally, risk the entire capital that they had. And I thought, wonder if we could make safe investing exciting. And then after 2008, I started putting my money into gold and silver after listening to people like Mike Maloney and David Morgan. And then 2010, I thought, hey, rather than, I didn't hear anybody talking about doing it the way that I was doing it with the background that I had. So I thought, I wonder whether this would be a good contribution to the space. And I wonder whether I can prove the strategy that we have, whether it will work for people around the world and make safe investing exciting.
That's awesome. So a question you said about safe investing, because we all know that the market and the economies are very turbulent, especially right now everything is very high, and it's gone up from a very low point after 2008. So how is your strategy, I guess, applicable to right now when times are really high and there potentially is something coming that might be, whether call it the economy goes down, whether it's the world economy or just USA. How does your strategy address that?
Well, the strategy, number one, takes into account several precautions to make sure that anything like that doesn't happen. Firstly, if you are uncomfortable when the market is down, if you're uncomfortable being in an investment when the market is down, you should not be in any investment, because the majority of the money is made when the market is down. So if that's a fear of yours, then you're a hazard to your money already. But then beyond that, you want to make sure you're not in a leveraged position, which none of our positions are leveraged at all. Leverage is what killed most people's accounts in 2008, because if they weren't leveraged and they just held on to it, they would have made more money by now. In any investment class, they would have made more money by now. But leverage killed it. The second thing is you've got to make sure the investment is cash flowing and paying for itself. Because if you, number one, aren't leveraged, and number two, have the cash flow so that the investment can pay for itself, you can withstand any storm that's going to come to you. And investments like real estate, gold, and the stock market too will always go up over time.
Right. Okay. Now, a question I actually got from a member of ours that is looking at your program, and I think they actually already are a member of your program. But their question originally was who can this help? Because when people look at gold and silver, they say, oh, that is only for the ultra rich and wealthy. But in reality, as I understand it, from your perspective, and I believe this as well, that is not true. It's an opportunity that pretty much anybody can take advantage of.
Yeah, I think at minimum, you've got to have, every family should have $5,000 worth of silver in possession. I think that's a standard. After that, you've got to look at how much wealth do you have, how is it distributed, what's the diversification you've got. And if you're heavily weighted in real estate, the stock market, and cash, which is what most people are, you really need to understand what protects purchasing power. And the number one protector of purchasing power in high inflationary situations, and people look at currency and they go, oh, we don't have any inflation. Well, if you look at it today, the numbers don't look like you have any inflation. You look at it from 1971 till now, and it has some inflation, right? There's some inflation there that's happened. I was reading that $1 million in the 70s saved would buy you about a $50,000 lifestyle today.
Right.
So the purchasing power of money declines faster than most people assume, but it still appears very slow because it still looks like you got to save money in the bank. That's the difference.
And hey,
Yep, go on.
Oh, Manesh, something you mentioned there I wanted to touch on, because it's a question that we get all the time for people within EVG, people who are in your course, people who are not, about gold and silver and actually holding it physically. And you mentioned a number, I think, of about $5,000 of silver to have actually in your physical possession. So could you kind of elaborate on that? Because a lot of people ask, should I have this like in my safe, in my house, or is it in more of a bullion account somewhere else, or actually in my house, in my bedroom, wherever they may have it?
So let's say, I'm just going to use round numbers as an example. Say you had $100,000 in your overall portfolio, right? Or let's say you had $1 million in your overall portfolio. You wanted to put $100,000 into gold and silver. Out of that, my perspective is you have $5,000 in physical, in possession, stored however you want to store it in your possession. And the rest of it you can then diversify and distribute through a gold money or a bullion vault account, and you can allocate some of that to the strategy we have, and all the different other methods that there are of investing in gold. But I think $5,000 worth you should have as a physical store that you have possession of.
Okay. Now, does that depend upon your lifestyle or income, or is it just as a straight number across the board, in your opinion?
This is very hard. I mean, it's very hard to tell. Of course, it depends on how much money you have, on how much you want to keep, in physical, and how much you're comfortable in physical. But I would say for the average family, $5,000 worth of physical possession of gold and silver is a good number.
And do you have any recommendation for a difference between gold and silver, or just equal?
I think if you have an appetite for slightly higher appetite for risk, then weight it in silver, because I think silver will make more money. If you have a lower appetite for risk, then weight it in gold.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Another question that we've got quite a bit is, you mentioned inflation. I want to go back to that for a second, because I was talking about real estate to somebody recently, and I think it applied for what you're talking about as well. But they said you don't invest in real estate right now to hedge against inflation, because there is no inflation right now, and we haven't had inflation over the past year or two, or 3 years, or 4 years. It's been pretty flatlined. But in my opinion, that's a very narrow view, because you don't look at inflation from a year-to-year basis. You look at it over the long term. You look at it over the 10-year, 30-year time frame. You know that there's going to be inflation. What's your take on that for gold and silver?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think inflation is one of those things. It's a silent killer. And what most people don't understand about inflation is that the actual calculation, the formulation for what inflation is changed by the government on a very regular basis, which means any part of the economy that starts going up in price, they sort of take it away to make it reflect like there's no inflation this year. But if you use the 1980s inflation calculation, which it's the inflation numbers are crazy.
Right.
And so real inflation is what you need to look at, not what the government's telling you.
Well, they manipulate it for their own benefit.
It makes sense. I mean, if we had that much control over a system, I would do the same thing to keep everybody in line.
Right. Okay. Well, so let's talk about your program a little bit. So you have quite a few people in there right now. You've been going at this for quite a while. So can you give me an idea, or our listeners an idea, of the results that your students are currently having inside the program right now? Because it sounds like they are amazing.
Yeah, well, you guys got a couple testimonials from people, part of EVG members that joined our program.
Oh, yeah.
So we can touch on those in a second. But on average, I like to look at the average, right? I think averages make a lot of sense. We've now got clients in 46 different countries. We've been doing this now for 7 years. The average makes more sense than any specific one person, including my own results, right? So our average is somewhere between 1 to 2.2% a month. And that has been consistent now for 7 years.
And that's per month, not per year. That's what's amazing.
So it's about 12 to 26% a year.
And that's important to note that, Manesh, I know you talk about it, the amount of time that is spent for people just following your program, because I've gone through it and have done that. It's literally checking your stuff. If you want to check it once a week, that's fine, just to pique your interest and see how it's doing. But you can narrow it down to a couple hours a month, and that's something I wanted to check on, and I was super impressed with that.
Yeah, it takes you about 6 hours to go through the program. Most people, I recommend go through it twice, because you probably rushed through it the first time. So it's going to take you 12 hours to do that. And then, there's a weekly coaching call that we have, and people should be on that at least for the first month. And then you should commit at least for the first month to be on that every single week. And it lasts somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. And then it's really up to you as to when you need to be on those calls. Obviously, there's no expiring limit, or there's no nothing you have to pay again for. You just, once you're a member, and you can join. We've had people join in 2010 that are still attending those calls today on a weekly basis. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much time at all. We did an anonymous survey of our clients, which is again like what I like to look at, and the average amount of time spent actually managing the investment after that first month was about 20 minutes.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, you don't. There's not many investment opportunities out there that provide cash flow that have that little amount of time involved on a monthly basis or weekly basis. That's very, very good. And one of the other things that I saw in one of our testimonials that I want to touch on is that a lot of people, when they hear gold and silver, they get overwhelmed. They don't feel like they have the time or ability to get into it because it's this big thing that they think is going to take a lot of knowledge, and they feel like it's once again the ultra successful, wealthy, rich are doing it. But in reality, we saw a testimonial come in from somebody that they had no previous experience in trading in precious metals or the option strategy, and yet they are having massive success inside of it. So, I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of clients that are going into this that don't have that experience but are having amazing results. So is that what you've been seeing out of your clients?
We have ex-Wall Street guys, we have single moms, we've got veterans, we've got doctors, we've got lawyers, we've got teachers, we've got, anyone farmers, we've got every single person from every profession. We've got 2 blind clients, all sorts of different professions, all sorts of different backgrounds and experiences, using the program to actually generate their 1% to 2.2% a month on their money while hedging their money with the best inflation and currency hedge in the world, gold and silver.
That's incredible. That's one thing that I think is missing out there is a lot of these types of products or programs are not available to most people, yet this one is available to anybody that has the initiative and desire to get that cash flow out of a very strong investment strategy. And so I definitely believe in what you're doing. I love what you're doing. It's amazing. It's helping a lot of people.
Well, thank you. My main goal with this whole thing before Gold and Silver Life started was just to experiment and see whether I could make safe investing exciting, right? Because I thought if I could, I personally believe that wealth is an account for the amount of freedom that you're going to have, freedom and choices that you're going to have tomorrow. And so it really hurt me when people are throwing away tomorrow's choices and freedoms by chasing something that's exciting and high risk today. And so I thought, I wonder whether I could just make something as safe as gold and silver, for example, really exciting for someone without them over leveraging or leveraging at all and being put into positions every 8 years when a market correction happens, of being forced out of the market. That was the intention with the whole thing to start with.
Okay. And one of the other things I like about what you're doing too is that when people think of passive cash flow or cash flow, that's what a lot of people want out there. They think of real estate. It's as you well know, that's how you got started as well. And they get overwhelmed because they think they have to go out and do it. They have to go out and learn real estate. They have to go out there in the field and go look at properties, and they have to go try to find capital and all of that. But the one great thing about what it is you're doing is that people don't have to do that. They can learn in their own environment, their own home, and invest from wherever they're comfortable. And so it's a great strategy in that respect as well.
Yeah, I think we've tried to make it as simple as possible and as organized and systematic as possible. One of the things that's interesting about, for example, our clients who have completely no prior experience whatsoever, is I got told of a conversation that she was having with a friend of hers over dinner, and she said, the other friend was a trader, like a full-on Wall Street trader. All those people that we love so much, and she was saying, the trader was saying, what is the delta on your position? What is the volatility on your position? What is the this on your position? What is the that on your position? And my client couldn't answer any of those questions. And then my client asked, what is your account doing this year? And she said the trader said she was at a negative, but my client was up 14% this year. Right? And so the key point I want to highlight with that is we have done as much as we can to take away any jargon or anything in terms of information that is irrelevant to getting a result. This program is not about knowledge. This program is about results. And you're not going to be sitting through something where you're reading a 600-page manual trying to understand what the delta on an option is, because if you just follow our rules, that's taken care of for you. And you've got weekly coaching calls to ask any questions depending on what's going on in the market. This program has been, we have some ex Wall Street guys and things like that join the program, traders and things like that. And they always say, how can this program's so simple? Like, I don't get it. You haven't educated on delta. You haven't educated on this, that, and the other. What about the Greeks? And my answer is, how is any of that? If you just follow our step 2 rule, for example, doesn't that get taken care of? And they go, yeah, but people need to know about it. Why? You're just making it complicated. All of that was designed to complicate the self-financial reliance, so that money could be given to fund managers and they could make money off of it. Just strip all of that away and get the precise information that is what's needed to get a result, and then move with that. And I think that's what we've done best. And
Manesh, your program, when I was in there doing it, it gives people, they're in there doing trades. They are taking action and they have control over what they're doing. And I think that even though it's not a lot of time every month, that's a very empowering feeling for people that are going through and doing this. That they have that control, they have that power, and they're taking action to help get those returns and get that cash flow that they want. Work on that financial future that we're all talking about here.
We do that in the first 26 minutes. In fact, before you even see any of the education, you actually go through a 26-minute training that is called our fast track. And what we do is put you through clicking the buttons to actually place a trade in a virtual account. So there's no money at risk, but you're actually placing a trade before you head over to the actual education. And the reason for that is that I've just found so many people find it overwhelming to actually do the investing. They'll sit there and go through a seminar, but when it comes to actually doing the investing, that's when everything gets nerve-wracking. So what we've done is got the fast track training that they go through first, takes 26 minutes. I even say, there's a chance here you're not going to understand anything you're doing right now. I don't need you to understand anything you're doing. What you need to do is just click the buttons that I tell you to click. It's in a virtual account. There's no money at risk. After that, about 3 weeks after they join the program, they get what we call a first trade call with one of my coaches who's been doing the strategy himself for 3.5 years now. And he's also one of my best friends from childhood. So they get a one-on-one call with him to actually go live into the market. And if they haven't placed a trade by then, he'll walk them through one-on-one how to do that. So we've basically tried to eradicate anything that would hold someone back from actually getting into the market and actually placing an investment. Because I think that's the one thing that stops people.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely I'm liking the results that we're seeing from your from the members going in there. Everybody seems to be extremely happy. And the one thing I do like that you mentioned is that it's the results. You're result focused, and that is something that I think is very different out there, because a lot of people are selling, especially in like the real estate market, and it's the way it is, but they're going to sell the path but not the result, or they're going to market the result and then give you the path. But in what you're doing is actually they're getting the results too. That's the focus.
Most of the time they're not even selling the result. They're selling someone else's result, or a result that they sat at the back of the room and edited on a PowerPoint presentation and probably photoshopped to go and present it. That's what they're selling normally.
Right.
Remember, I've been a stage speaker for 8 years. I know what goes on at the back of these rooms.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, Jake, do you have any other questions?
Nope, got all of mine answered, and we're excited, Manesh, to get some people from EVG in there and get some more testimonials, and looking forward to it.
Guys, I just want to say I appreciate you guys, and I'm very, very happy and proud to see what you guys are doing with EVG and for your members. We get, it's amazing how much great feedback we get once we get a client from you guys about how great EVG is. So that's really, really good. And thanks for having me on this.
Well, absolutely, Manesh.
Appreciate it, Manesh. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
All right. Bye.